They're kind of Jane Fonda-esque stuff where they're doing this kind of stuff, or then you'd have the kind of dynamic stretching where you're just doing this kind of stuff.
Yeah. Please tell me that I can't, that I won't, that I fail, that I'll never make it out, yeah. Please tell me all the bad, never good, fill my head full of every single doubt, yeah. Please say any negative thoughts, I pop off when I hear people say I cannot. I get off to the thought of proving everyone wrong.
Okay, so I thought today I would talk to you about warm-ups. A wee chat about what's the best warm-up and what's the best warm-up for you specifically and what you're way to do. So I'm going to warm up and I'm going to chat to you about warming up. And if you're wondering why I've just put knee sleeves on when I'm way to deadlift, it's because it's just to protect my shins. I'm not actually going to use them for my knees. I'm just going to protect them on my shins so the bar doesn't beat the hell out of my shins. That's why, just something I do. Okay, so we look at warm-ups. Again, traditionally, if we look at warm-ups over the years, or certainly my years of training, they've gone through a few kind of guises, incarnations, iterations of what you should be doing to warm up. They all kind of follow the same format where you'd have some sort of pulse raiser, get the heart rate up, slowly build it up, and you'd have some sort of stretch. The reason I'm telling you this is because I want you to kind of think about the way you're training, the way you're warming up, things you do, or you might know somebody else to do it. And if this is you, then it might be worth thinking about what you're doing, and you might need to modify it slightly. So yeah, so that was kind of the traditional format. And now the way they formatted it over the years has been different ways people have done it. So you would have a lot of people that would do kind of stretching. You'd have your stretch first, and then you'd start moving around and, you know, jumping around, swinging your legs, swinging your arms, all that kind of business. And then you'd do that for a while, and then you'd crack back on with the session of whatever it happens to be your way to do. Then the other way some people would do it, they would kind of run around, swing their arms, swing their legs, kick around, all sorts of weird movements. And then once they'd done that and they got the heart rate up, they would then stop and they would stretch. And then they'd do the activity. And then there was a kind of another way where you'd kind of swing your arms around, legs around, then you would stop, do a bit of stretching, then you would go back to swinging your arms and legs around, get the pulse nice and high, and then you'd crack on with the exercise. And you know, it's variations of that people would typically do to get going with their session, whatever it might be. Now, when it comes to the stretching portion of it, again, that's had different kind of viewpoints and stances over the years where it's static stretching, so you see a lot of people that would be doing their static stretches, deep hamstring stretches, then you'd have people who were doing their kind of Jane Fonda-esque stuff where they're doing this kind of stuff, or then you'd have the kind of dynamic stretching where you're just doing this kind of stuff, that kind of business. And there's debate as to what you should be doing, which is best for you. Now, we're going to look at this from a gym point of view, so if you're lifting weights in the gym, we will talk briefly about sports specific, but this is for your kind of general gym user, lifting weights, etc., etc. Now, the problem with these kind of traditional warm-ups is, one, you're introducing a lot of movement with stretching, for instance, that you do not need. So you'll notice there, when I've been warming up, I've just been taking my body into position that I'm going to deadlift, nowhere else, because I don't want to introduce any extra movement, because it's going to mean I'm going to have more movement to control, which is not helpful when you're exercising. You want to just be moving through the movement that you require, and you don't want additional stresses, strains, and strength to worry about while you're doing that. So, stretching wise, I tend to not bother if I'm warming up for kind of strength gym exercises. Excuse me while I grab this plate. I would just stick to the movement. Now, that's not to say that you never can stretch. Some days I will come in and I will feel horrendous, and my body will feel battered and just drained. And sometimes I will stretch just to give myself that little bit of freedom if I feel like my normal movement isn't there. But beyond that, I don't really bother with stretching. So, like I said, all those traditional kind of warm-up methods, we don't really need them. And in terms of pulse raisers and stuff like that, we don't really need to elevate the heart rate up to some, zone 4, zone 5, because we're not going to be doing that kind of dynamic exercise that requires the heart to be that high for a sustained period of time. Your heart rate will increase when you put extra load on, you put extra strain in, but it's not going to go mega high. And as you warm up through sets, you're going to take your heart rate up gradually to where it needs to be anyway. So this is going to be my second warm-up set. I put a little bit of weight onto the bar, and again, all I'm going to do is the movement that I'm doing for the exercise. So nice and controlled, working on the pattern, and I'm building up the speed a little bit. And again, this is where my knee sleeves on my shins pays dividends, because as I drag it on my shins, it's just dragging up the knee sleeves. I'll just do a few reps, get the muscles warmed up, feel the blood get into my body. Again, because I've not stretched, I don't have any extra movement on one movement I have to worry about controlling, and I carry on. So again, I will just increase the weight slightly again, building up to my working sets. Now, in terms of stretching, the reason that I don't stretch and for warming up, and most people don't stretch in terms of weight training, is because there is no benefit to it. If we look at the literature that's available, there is no literature that shows using stretching, will, one, reduce your chance of injuries, or two, improve your performance. If anything, the literature shows slightly more the opposite, where you have a greater chance of reduced performance and increased injury because you have increased range of motion, which is unwanted during the activity. So that's why I don't stretch, and I don't stretch necessarily with my clients either. If I'm doing a group session with a class, the way I warm up with them is I don't do group warm-ups. Even though I've got a group of people in, I don't do a group warm-up, because if I've got 6, 7 people, I don't know how those 6, 7 people are moving or feeling. So we will always warm up. If it's strength work, we'll deadlifts, they'll all warm up with the bar. But if one of them, like I said, feels tight or stiff or something's not quite moving, then yes, they might say to me, "Oh, Roderick, I'm feeling a bit rubbish in my hip." I'll say, "Okay, well, let's have a look." Right, okay, maybe we just need to loosen that off a little bit. So I'll give them something specific to stretch that and open it to their normal range of movement that they would need for the exercise. Nothing excessive. Again, I don't want to take them beyond anything that they need to do and increase the chances of reduced performance or increased injury. So yeah, that's the way I do group sessions. I don't know why I put my wrists on yet. Don't need them quite yet. So yeah, so again, next set, again, still warming up. And I'm just working through the pattern. Nice and steady, nothing crazy. Again, looking at that speed of movement through the bar as I deadlift. Just a few reps. Now I can feel my heart rate going up, but only going up a little bit, which is appropriate to the exercise. I don't need it going sky high. It has elevated a little bit, but just to the point that I need it to be elevated. Nothing crazy. And I'm going to continue to slowly build up the weight till I get to my working set, which is not going to be anything astronomical this week. So, comes to exercise in the gym, use the exercise that you're going to be doing. So if you're deadlifting, deadlift to warm up. If you're squatting, squat to warm up. If you're bench pressing, bench press to warm up. Simple as that. However, if we then consider more sporting based activities, so football, something like that, that's a really classic, common sport that everybody plays. Now obviously there's different strains, stresses, requirements during a football game or a rugby game or something like that. So you would, in that instance, want to do a pulse raiser because you need to get your heart rate elevated, because when you're running around that pitch, your heart rate is going to be high, so you want to be at that point already when you start the activity. Also, there's a lot of movements, so twists, turns, kicks, jumps. So all these movements would need to be incorporated into the warm-up. So little drills where you are doing your kicking movements or you're jumping and headering the ball, all that kind of thing, you would incorporate that into your warm-up for the specific sport. Same as rugby, you would do a lot of getting down on the floor, getting back up, running, getting down, getting back up, that sort of thing. That's why the pads, the ruck pads, a lot of hits into contact, specific to rugby. So it's different. So what I'm saying, what I've just told you is specific to the gym, not specific to sports. But again, the sports warm-up has changed over the years as well. So again, you go back to those classic doing static stretches, doing pulse raises in different orders. It's kind of changed now where they've got very specific, very science-backed when you get to the elite level. I know Sunday league, it's still have a pint, have a fag, run on the pitch, off you go. I don't think that'll ever go when you have different levels of sport. And that's fine because it's more for enjoyment than professional sport. I mean, they're likely to injure themselves if they just have a fag and a pint before they go on a football pitch, but hey ho, some people do it, but such is life. So yeah, that's the two instances, and they're two very different scenarios where you'd have very different warm-ups. But like I said, we're concentrating on the gym environment. So in the gym environment, stick to the activity, the exercise you're going to do as your core warm-up. Now I will do exercises after this deadlift, but for those exercises, because of the strain, the stress, the load that I put into my body, it'll be nice and warm so I can then carry on with the other exercises without needing to do anything else, yeah? And that is it. So hopefully that is enough. So remember, one takeaway, do the exercise you're going to do as your warm-up. Couldn't be simpler. Big secret. All right, if you like this, like, comment, subscribe, share the video, that'd be doing me a massive favour. Leave a comment. If you think I'm an idiot and I don't know what I'm talking about, leave a comment. Don't really care. Leave a comment and I will see you in the next one. Big love. Happy days.